Hello, this is Professor Peter Gregory for Business 3010, and this is a solution for McGraw-Hill Connect homework for Chapter 2, problem number 23. Some of the other things that we've seen in Chapter 2 here is operations as strategy. Okay, so one of the overarching thought processes here is what are we going to do different than our competitors, or what are we going to do at all for a customer to stick with us, to come to us and stick with us? Okay, that's a big question. It's all about customers. It's all about stakeholders. Okay, so in terms of this question, with regard to free market, someone has given you rights and resources to produce sandwiches here, and there's three different kinds of sandwiches for which you're probably paid as a manager. So they're basically in free market trading for your expertise and time. Running a crew that puts hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and chicken sandwiches together. They give you resources. They become your stakeholders. Okay, so we want to keep in mind how business really works here, for which you have some rights. Okay, so you are assigned some rights to be able to get your job done. And that is free market in a nutshell. A fast food restaurant serves these hamburgers, cheeseburgers, and chicken sandwiches. And what we're reading about here is the restaurant counts a cheeseburger as equivalent to 1.25 hamburgers when it comes to how much time it takes for an employee to create one of these cheeseburgers. Okay, so you have to read a little bit into the problems here. Okay, the chicken sandwiches are a little less complicated or time consuming than a cheeseburger and only take of a hamburger, and only take 0.8 amount of the resources, which is time in this problem. Okay, so if current employment is 5 full-time employees who each work at 40-hour week. I bet that's going to come to play really soon here. And when we're talking about productivity, that's going to be the output over the input. And the input is the number of hours. So one of the things about these problems is, in thinking about them, if there's anything you can calculate, I would say go ahead and start calculating it, because it will lead you to probably what's going to be used later on. And so if we look at the total number of hours available to you as a resource to get your job done as a manager every week, we have 5 employees times 40 hours each per week. And that, of course, hopefully we can all do that math in our head. And that's 200 what we'll call worker hours per week. Okay, so you have 200 hours of your workers to get the entire order, aggregate order for the entire week done. Okay, so free market again at work here. So the problem for question A is the restaurant sold 700 hamburgers. Let's start writing this down. Okay, so we have 700 hamburgers, we have 900 cheeseburgers, and we have 500 chicken sandwiches. So the total for the week is 7 and 9 and 5 is 2,100. So we sold 2,100. But if we're looking at the productivity here, it says if the restaurant sold these, and in that week, what is the productivity? Okay, so we have 200 hours per week. So the productivity will actually, we have to calculate, there's a complication factor here, right? So it's 700 times 1. The base unit is a hamburger. We had 900 cheeseburgers, which have a complication factor of 1.25, or time consumption of 1.25 regarding or compared to the hamburger. And we did 500 chicken sandwiches, which seems to take a little bit less time, which is 0.8 hours, if you will, or 8.8 times the amount of time it takes to do the hamburger. So that was a hamburger, that was a cheeseburger, and that was chicken. Okay, so when we look at these labor hours involved, okay, so we do 700 times 1 is your 700, 900 times 1.25. Let's go calculate that. I have a calculator handy right here. And what is it that we need to calculate? Let me get this out of the way here. We need to do 900 times 1.25. I don't trust myself winging this on the fly here, so I want to make sure we get the right answers. And we come up with 1125. 1125 equivalent hours for the cheeseburgers, and then 500 times 0.8. We should be able to do that. That's 400. Okay, and we'll use our calculator to add those up. So we have 1125 plus 700 plus your 400, and our total number of hours that it took to build sandwiches for that week is 26.25. Let's do that again. It doesn't look right. Let's go back to the calculator here. 1125 plus 700 plus 400 equals 22.25. For some reason, something happened on the calculator there, and we have 22.25. 22.25. I was going to guess that, but it's better to use the calculator anyway. So we used up 2,225 hours making sandwiches, or we have the equivalent of, we have 2,225 equivalent hamburgers is what we produced in this problem here. So we end up taking how many output we have. It's 22.25, and we divide by 200. Okay, anybody want to guess what that's going to be? Go ahead. I'm just going to divide here by 200. 200. And we're going to get 11.125. So what was that number? What does that number signify? 11.125 burgers per hour. Okay, so that's our productivity. Now, they asked for it. It says round to 2 decimal places. So what would that be? 11.13. And if we get rid of our little blocker there, we have 11.13 times, or plus or minus 1%. Okay. They weren't really talking about tolerances here. So 11.13, you'd be happy with that. Okay, and the system should take it. The second question is, what would its productivity have been if it sold the same number of sandwiches, which was 2,100 that we calculated, but the mix was 700 of each type? It's doing the same problem over again with a different set of numbers. I'm kind of running out of room, so I'll come down a little bit here. Okay, so it said instead of the quantity mix that we had over here on the left, we ended up just selling 700, making and selling 700 of each. 700 and 700. And let me just get rid of this distracting little number that was left over from something else. And that should give us our 2,100. Let me move down just a bit more. There we go. Okay, so we still have 2,100 sandwiches, but we have a different mix going on there. And so let's come back to our equivalents that we used before. It's hamburgers by 1, cheeseburgers by 1.25, and chicken sandwiches by 0.8. Okay, so let's do the quick math there. It's 700. If anybody wants to go ahead and do that, feel free. I'm going to go to the calculator. 700 times 1.25. Okay, which is 875. And finally, 700 times 0.8, that I can do. That would be 560. And if we add up those equivalence hours, we'll come back over here. I'm not going to trust my mental calculator right now. 700 plus 560. And that is equal to 2135. Okay? 2135. Now, there's a couple of different ways to do problems in this course and at all in any other course. And one of them is to get through and get your math done. But one of the also things to do here is apply the knowledge a little bit. We haven't quite finished out this problem yet. So I guess maybe we'll do that and then I'll comment on this. But there's the added value, the true work experience type value out of some of these questions is to think about it a little bit, which I'll help lead you to, which I do through the course here. But if we take 2135, divide that by 200, let's do that number really quick. I don't think that came out right. I think I might have done that wrong. Over 200. 10.675. All right. So our productivity was 10.675. Okay? And you can see what happens is when we increased the number of chicken sandwiches by 200 and decreased the number of cheeseburgers by 200, we then created the same number of sandwiches. And when we add this up, we end up with a different productivity number that effectively our productivity was 10.675 compared to 11.125. This is what the problem wants us to think about a little bit here. And it actually says that when we balanced it a little bit differently and a whole lot more people came in and ordering chicken sandwiches, our productivity actually went down because those 700, let's say we lost 200 net here and we picked up 200 net here, but it had to do with a factor of our labor hours going down here involved with the production. Okay. And so we have to think about these problems a little bit, about where they want to take us here. This is sensitivity analysis. I mean, if we take every one of these problems, sensitivity, if we take every one of these types of problems throughout the course and we look at what's really going on here, we can look at what the sensitivity is. And here is if the chicken sandwiches start increasing, our sales of those, our productivity actually goes down. And hopefully that helps you a little bit with one of the more complicated ones. Apparently complicated at first, but then you can see how pretty straightforward it is. These are calculations you'll be ending up doing no matter what your choice of career is or whatever path you go into, whether you become a strict operations practitioner or you're using operations to make money, own your own business, or work for somebody else. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you in class.